Hey, welcome back to the channel. You see a bunch of different knives on the table. That's because we're going to be talking about collecting knives today. Now, if you're watching this video, you probably don't need any help collecting knives. And that's like a lot of us, right? We just buy knives that we like and enjoy. And I don't think we need any help with that. What we need help in is not buying knives, because we probably buy too many knives. But how cool is that knife? It's got a little piranha there. That is just cool. And then it's a switchblade too. So how cool is that? Plus the burnt orange. Oh, that's so nice. But what I'm going to be doing today is talking about knife collecting in a different perspective. So if you are collecting knives, what I can do is maybe look at that hobby of knife collecting and give you some hints and maybe some direction on where you might want to go with collecting knives. And primarily we're going to be talking about traditional folders today, but I hope that you join me in the video. It should be pretty interesting. I think it would be helpful to some of you all out there who are collecting knives. And so I hope you join me in the video. Hey, welcome back to the channel. Hi to all my viewers. Bonjour, privet, guten tag, hola, ciao, and konnichiwa to my foreign viewers. So if you're looking at this today and you're one of my subscribers or regular viewers, thank you very much. I really appreciate you. If you are a regular viewer and have not subscribed, I encourage you to do that. That pushes the algorithms up, pushes these knife videos up to the top, and it makes it easier for other folks, including yourself, to find these knife videos amongst the algorithms of YouTube. And so I would just encourage you to do that. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe today. Thank you so much. So we're talking about collecting knives today. Got a bunch of different ones on here for a reason. And I don't think people have a problem collecting knives, right? Hey, I like this, I'm gonna buy it, and they buy it. But somewhere along the way, it gets kind of complicated, and you kind of get lost. And so within 3 to 6 months, most people will focus on one particular knife type that they like and start collecting that knife type. So I'm going to talk about the specifics of that to try to help you out, maybe to give you a better direction or a greater direction in the one or two aspects of knife collecting that you all intend to specialize in. And so over here in the top corner, I've got some Stockmans. Probably a lot of people have Stockmans, so it's a popular pattern for knife makers. So I'm going to start off with this pattern and show you how different they can be. All right, so I'm using my fancy pointer here. This is a Sykes Fairburn fighting knife from the 1950s. Don't think it's wartime, but it's pretty close to wartime. I think it was produced a little bit after the World War II. Anyhow, so up here we've got Stockmans. As you can see, some are bigger, some are smaller, and that's one of the differences in Stockmans that you can find. Now, the thing about Stockmans is they're a very specific pattern. They're actually a premium stock knife, and the pattern was a serpentine pattern. And so for the most part, premium Stockmans are always going to be some type of serpentine pattern. Within that context, though, there's a lot of differences that can add to your collecting experience. And so when you look at this knife right here, it's a case 47 pattern, and it is 3 7/8 inch long, almost 4 inches. So one of the bigger patterns of Stockman that you can get. But a lot of people pick this one up. It's an 18 pattern. It's 3.5 inches. I carry one of these almost every day. Lately, past month and a half or so, I've been trying to use a sow belly rather than my Stockman, just to use something different. But a lot of people carry them. The 47 pattern is not always in production, and so this is the pattern that people can get a hold of right here. This is a 44 pattern. It's a 3.25 inch pattern. It's a little different though. If you look at it, it is serpentine, but it almost looks like a center swell belly on here, and it's not as serpentine as the other patterns, and that's one of the things that you can look for in collecting, is just maybe a little different pattern difference, something very subtle to enhance your collection, whether you like a particular pattern or not, or a particular model. It's one way to kind of vary your collecting experience. This one right here is an 87 pattern. This is 3 3/8 inches, but the 87 pattern was a shadow pattern, meaning the way the bolster is designed to hide the tang, so it more easily slips into your pocket. And so it's a very radically different pattern than this pattern right here, which has square bolsters on it. You can see the tang stick up here a little bit, and then you can see the 18 pattern compared to it. Very different pattern. And so, bearing, it's not always about size, but it's also sometimes has to do with function. Most of these knives were produced for a specific reason. This is a 33 pattern, looks a lot like the 44 pattern with a center swell down there. This is 2 3/4 inches long. It's one of the smallest ones you can get now, and it is a Stockman. And what I want you to notice about this is it has a California clip on it, or a muskrat clip, whatever you want to call that. It has a different clip on it, and that brings up another point, that you can find these knives with different style blades on them. And so this is a different style blade than that one I just showed you that has the California clip on it. And so just the little details of collecting these knives can offer a difference in your collecting experience, and enhance, give you a greater appreciation for what you're collecting. You can also find different blades. So usually, you have a spay blade and a sheep's foot blade. This one has a pin blade on it, and it's also included in the name, I believe, on this knife. Whoop, whoop. That's what that PE stands for. It's a 087 PE pattern, and that's what the PE for is, designating a pin blade. And so you can find different blades on these knives too, and just enhances your collection by looking for these specific things. The other thing you'll notice is there's a bunch of different shields on here. So this is an old style case shield right here, and here you see the new style case shield. This one has the barn with case in it. That's a special issue type of shield. This is what I call Chevy shield. A lot of different kind of shields on these case knives, and so that's another thing that you could look for, rather than having 5 or 6 of these and just different bone colors. You could have different bone colors with different shields on them, and that's one of the ways I like to collect, because it saves you money. So if I'm trying to get a Chevy shield, which is different. I look for a different color also. If I can get them both, I've saved money. I don't have to buy one knife that is a midnight blue and one knife that has a Chevy Shield on it that may be the same color as another knife that I have. And so it's one way to save money, but it's also a different collecting perspective of what you're trying to do when you collect knives. This knife right here is a sow belly. I actually have a case sow belly, but I just chose to show you this one. It's a sow belly Stockman, and again, it's a different pattern Stockman. It is serpentine, so this is part of the original patterns that were produced, and it is a Stockman. This one happens to be a Rough Rider Reserve. That's what this is. Yeah, Rough Rider Reserve. You also know it has a different shield on it, and it has a different scale material. So I'm getting a pattern difference in this knife, a different scale, and a different scale material than these right here. And so it just kind of widens that collector experience. Here's another one. This looks like a coffin pattern. It's not a true coffin pattern because on coffin patterns, both ends of the bolster are exactly the same. On this one side is bigger than the other, and so it's not a true coffin pattern, but it looks like it to me. It looks like that's what they were going after. You can see you have a center swell that goes down on both sides, so it's a center or swell center pattern. It looks a lot like a coffin pattern, but it's different. I mean, that's the point. It's a different type of pattern in Stockman. And so all of that makes for an interesting collection. And it's interesting to have also. We'll come back over here. Here's some different ones here. This is a Schrade, and it's an 896 pattern, but if you'll notice it right away, it has a very, very serpentine pattern. Look at that. It's almost like the top is offset from the bottom. And when you match that up to a case, it looks very, very different. Much more aggressive serpentine design to this knife. And so now you're crossing brands, and if all you're doing is collecting Stockmans from case, that's fine. Maybe that's the only brand you like. But the point is, by collecting different brands, you can get these small, interesting variations in the Stockman. And so if you like Stockman pattern, you can see these different variations in the Stockman pattern. This is also a Schrade, very similar to the 44 pattern here. You see that right there. But you have a different shield, different materials, different blade configurations on this one right here. And so it just adds to that experience. Here's another Stockman. This is another Schrade. You can see this outstanding pewter Bowie shield on this. And that's where you're getting into, I'm collecting a Stockman, but I'm also getting a really cool shield. And so it just enhances that experience by collecting different Stockmans with different shields. That might be pretty cool. Has a little pewter plate in the back too. Been Jim Bowie edition right there. And so that's how, looking at the finer details of the pattern, the different types of blades that they have, the different type of shields, the different type of patterns within the Stockman pattern can enhance your collection and your collecting experience. It's interesting to look for these different types of knives within the pattern. Okay, I'm really going to have to move here because I didn't intend for this to be that long. So another thing about collecting is just looking for unusual patterns. Here's another Rough Rider Reserve series, Rough Rider Reserve. This is a very unusual pattern. It's a beautiful representation of kind of a mix of knives, actually. The Spanish Navaja and also the French. Geez, I can't think of that. Just shout it at the screen. You know what I'm talking about. Anyhow, just unusual, different patterns. Here you have a pattern that's unusual. It's a very large sow belly, and then it's four bladed, and so that's very unusual. And then you have, this beautiful mother of pearl bordered by abalone on both sides, and just a little different, a little different. Here's one. This is a Congress. It's not your average Congress. It's 6 blades. Really unusual to get a 6-blade knife. Even in the collector knives, you don't see them that often. This is a vintage one made by Parker. And here is an A.G. Russell. This is an absolutely huge knife. Let me see if I can. I'll show you how big this knife is. Check this out. So if you open this knife from end to end and put it up next to this, look how big. So that's a Bowie, and that's how big that unusual muskrat is. This is a muskrat blade by A.G. Russell. Beautifully done. Unusual knife. So that's another way to collect, is just look at unusual knives. Here's one here. It has 16 blades on this knife. There's 8 on each side. Beautiful old representation of a quill knife. This is actually a quill knife. Just fantastic here in the detail of the knife. Unusual though. Another thing about collecting is you can look at the function of the knife. And so this knife, corn knife right here, wasn't for cutting corn off the cob. This is a knife for cutting corn off your feet. And it's very much like a surgical instrument, a very precise razor blade on there that is extremely sharp. And this right here was used for, you'd rub it over the corn like that and wear the corn down. This is a Robert Class, and just very unusual. So it had a very precise, explicit purpose, one purpose on this knife. This knife right here, a lot of people wouldn't recognize, but back in the 1800s, everybody knew what this was. This is a phlegm knife used for bloodletting. And, another example of a very specific knife with a specific purpose that you don't see anymore. This one right here is a timber scribe. Another type of knife you don't see anymore, where they mark the timbers with a knife type. This is really sharp in here, by the way. It's still sharp. And that you would scrap numbers in the wood. Carpenters and shipbuilders and lumber people use these, to mark lumber. Another way is looking at bolsters. And so there's a number of different knives like this that came with what they call fancy bolsters. Here's one right here. And, it's just another additive feature to a knife, another reason to collect the knife, another thing that makes collecting the knife cool. And then just regular, scales on a knife. And so this is just natural bone, but it has a beautiful colored scrimshaw in it, done by a scrimshaw artist. And it's just really cool to have something like that in your collection. Here's one right here. What's unusual about this, I think, is the copper bolsters. And so sometimes you get brass bolsters. It's unusual to find copper bolsters. It's mainly a contemporary type of thing. But this one has copper pens and copper liners in it. And so, that's just really cool to have in your collection. They're unusual, but they don't look like any of these. So it's unusual. This knife right here you have a real dinosaur bone. And I just think that's cool as hell. That's one of the coolest things I have in my collection, I think. Yeah, it's a little tiny piece, but it's a dinosaur bone. It belonged to a brontosaurus who lived 65 million years ago. And then the on the either side you have natural stone. This is onyx, real onyx. Just a beautiful example. And another way to collect, looking at different scale materials. Here's horn right here, beautiful, and really hard to find in vintage knives and new knives too, actually. So horn is a great material to try to collect in knives. This is genuine tortoise shell, another rare type of handle material that's kind of cool to have in your collection. This is ivory, definitely scarce. So if you can get some ivory in your collection, that's really cool to have an example of that type of thing. Another thing that could be really cool is relief work on a knife or engraving. Engravings, most knives were not engraved after the 1820s. They use this type of relief process where they stamp the blades. This is actually done from the inside of the knife, the stamping on it. That's an interesting story in and of itself. Also, just knives that have extremely fine work done to them. So when you look at this knife, it's mother of pearl. I think we realize how precious mother of pearl is, and how it's very hard to do this kind of scribing into mother of pearl without damaging it. So just that in and of itself is extremely fine work. Once you get past this design here, you have these very thin threads that were put into sterling silver, and then you have silver pins in it. You have a very unusual shield, but if you keep zooming in on this knife, you can see in these, I'm going to try not to stab myself here really hard. Okay, you can see there's these little lines scribed into the bottom and top of this shield. So no matter how small you get, there's more detail in the knife. See that? Just absolutely fantastic work. It's also all silver except for the mother of pearl scales. The back is finely milled right there. I don't think that's milling, by the way. That's work back done by hand. This knife is a 1840 vintage knife right here. And so just, getting these really fine knives, you see some just fantastic work on these knives. Another way to collect. Here's a different type of precision, but not as detailed perhaps as this Sheffield knife was, but every much as interesting and cool, with gold inlaid into it, and some really precise work on the ship right there. Really cool. And also just contemporary stuff. I mean, this is cool. It's different. I have seen Black Widows on old dirks that gamblers use, but for the most part, having a knife with a spider web and a spider on it is just cool. Right? It's interesting. It's appealing, and things like this brighten up your collection. So if you're just a big Stockman person, for instance, and you got 75 Stockman in your collection, having a knife like this just kind of brightens up your collection. It's something different, something cool. It's a conversational piece, and it's kind of neat to have. And same thing on the modern side. Having these unusual scale materials on a knife is just really neat, and it's beautiful. I just love this. This is shredded copper and shredded carbon fiber on this knife, and just really cool looking. Not your average tactical black knife. This one right here, anodized. Beautiful anodization on this. Anodized blue with some rainbow anodization there, different colors. Also, could be a period of time, right? So having a knife that was part of a military. These old military knives are just really neat to have in your collection, and that is an interesting, sub collection altogether. I'm still trying to get all the different types of patterns that we issued during World War II. I don't have them all. I'm pretty close to having them, but I don't have them all. And that is pretty interesting collecting also. All right, I think that wraps it up. Man, I didn't want this video to get long. It's already like 21 minutes long. Apologize for that. I actually got more stuff to put in here. I'm going to go ahead and do it. Okay, so just take a second. Another thing to look at in your knives is tang stamps. So this is a really unusual Phoenix tang stamp, and there's all kinds of different tang stamps like this that you can find on vintage knives. That's really cool. Sub collection type of thing. You can see right there, that's a lamp. Really cool. And not only tang stamps, but just etchings too. So that's like a big chicken, real pampa. A pampa is actually an ostrich type of animal from South Africa. And just another cool aspect of collecting. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it helps you out and maybe points you in a direction that you might be interested in going, or just in your collection, helps you out with different ideas to continue in the collection that you like to collect, whatever that may be. And thanks so much for watching the video. I apologize again, it got a little long, but I really appreciate y'all, and I'll see you in the next video.